Hey, Andrew. Great to see you. So Andrew was one of our keynotes in Davos in January this year, and he knows that if he comes to the Stanford event on September 8th or 9th, or the next Davos event, because he's speaking tonight and he spoke at the last one, and if he comes to those others, he gets a Chia Pet, because Andrew, if you speak at 3 of our events, you earn the Chia Pet. So just keep that in mind. All right, Andrew is a legend. Andrew, you have had such a rich and varied career in AI, from founding the Stanford AI Lab, SAIL, serving as co-founder and lead of Google Brain, serving as the chief scientist at Baidu, co-founding and serving as co-chair for Coursera, and now founder and CEO of Deep Learning AI. What do you think we have done very well with AI so far, and what do you think we haven't gotten right? What has amazed you, and what has underwhelmed you? So that's a few questions there, but you are that good, and what you have to say is that thoughtful. We have a big audience here. Can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Thanks, Sean. But I didn't found the Stanford AI Lab. I did run it, but I didn't found it.
John McCarthy founded SAIL, right?
Is that right? I actually don't. Boy, I'm embarrassed to say I
John
don't.
McCarthy and Minsky wrote the paper in 1955 to go up to Dartmouth to talk about AI, and he taught at MIT, and then he took off and then went to Stanford. So yeah, I'm sorry to misappropriate that, but you did found a lot of other things. You are impressive. Okay, that doesn't take away.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And you went to Carnegie Mellon, and you got some degree at MIT, right? At some point.
Yeah, I was MIT Core 6, master's degree, before I went to Berkeley and finished my PhD there.
Yeah.
So lots of great memories of
Well,
MIT.
welcome back.
I have to say, of all the schools I attended, I had the most fun in MIT. I don't know if it's the most productive in MIT, but definitely had the most fun.
All right, that's the name of the game. All right. So, do you want me to restate the question?
No, I share something I'm really excited about, where I'm seeing initial momentum with a lot more room to grow, which is I think that AI is getting to a point where it makes sense to empower everyone to build with AI. So last year, there were some people advising others to not learn to code on the grounds that AI will automate coding. I think we'll look back on that as some of the worst career advice ever given. Because as AI helps with coding, coding becomes easier, and that means more people should do it, not fewer. In fact, in previous eras of computing, when we went from punch cards to keyboard and terminal, or when we went from assembly language to COBOL, every time coding became easier, some people said, "Oh, you now have COBOL. Looks like you don't need programmers anymore." And it was complete opposite. By making it easier, more people joined programming. And at this point in time, with vibe coding or whatever you want to call, right, having AI do most of the coding, you barely look at it yourself. I think coding has become so much easier that it makes sense to teach pretty much everyone to code. I know that at MIT, almost everyone, or maybe everyone, I'm not sure, right, of the student body learns to code. But what I'm seeing in many roles is on my team, the marketers and the recruiters and the finance professionals, the ones that know how to code, they outperform the ones that don't, because they can start to because one of the most important skills of the future, not just for software engineers, but for everyone, is the ability to tell a computer exactly what you want it to do so they can do it for you. And for the foreseeable future, learning deeply how a computer works at the level of knowing, how to code, basically, even if you have AI do almost all the coding for you, that seems like the best way to understand computers deeply enough to instruct them, to bend them to your will and make them do stuff for you. So I'm excited about that as a one of many important next steps in the development of AI.
Okay, so what do you think we've done well so far? What do you think we haven't gotten right? And what has amazed you, and what has underwhelmed you? Did you touch a bunch of those? I feel like you touched a few. Is there any more juice in that orange?
Well, you're like a professor with a checklist of questions you want me to answer. So let me share a few things. So I think well, the thing we have not done right as a field, I think the hype has been excessive. There's been a handful of companies with amazing PR machines that have repeatedly hyped up lines that make themselves look more powerful, and this has distorted public perception of AI. So, for example, this idea that, soon we'll have AGI and computers can do anything, that's been really dramatically hyped up. Or AI is so dangerous it could accidentally kill us all, or some of these AI companies are so powerful that by training a new model, they might accidentally wipe out 1,000 startups. It's just not that easy to wipe out 1,000 startups. They did wipe out, a handful, like Jasper got wiped out. That's the one everyone talks about. Or we need so much electricity, only nuclear power is good enough for us. That wind, solar, battery stuff, not good enough. We need nuclear power. So I think there are a few lines of hype that have been amplified because of the fundraising or PR goals of a small number of companies, and that has really distorted perception, including the continuing attacks on open source and open weight software. I think one of the things I think at the federal level, Congress last year especially, and this year, I think has been pretty thoughtful in ignoring the attacks on open source software, usually on kind of made up grounds of AI safety and presented in ways that don't actually make anyone safer. Um, I think many of you know the story, right? When you spend billions of dollars training a large AI model, it's kind of inconvenient if someone else releases an open model that really degrades the value of that investment. So I've been surprised at the intensity of the attacks on open source software, usually on frankly made up grounds of safety, to try to put in place burdensome licensing requirements to stifle open source and open way software. Fortunately, we've defeated the worst of the regulatory proposals. I think the federal level, the bipartisan AI Insight Forum, really both sides of the aisle, did a good job sorting out this and deciding to not slow down AI. The next step would be to actively invest in, accelerating investments in AI. But I think at the US state level, there's still problematic regulations being proposed. So I think that's one thing that we've not done that well.
Bob Young from founder of Red Hat's in the audience. So
Oh,
you
cool.
mentioned
Awesome. Yeah.
open
We'll
source.
keep,
Yeah. So let me go to my next question. Deep learning AI has a mission to democratize AI and build an AI-powered workforce. Why did you decide on this as the top area for your focus? Your time is valuable. You could be doing a lot of things. I know you're passionate about climate and sustainability, but this is something that you've made a priority. And what do you think we need to do to get education right? How do you see AI transforming the traditional education system beyond online courses, Coursera, and where is deep learning AI heading?
So what I want to do is empower everyone to build AI, and deep learning's training education is an important component of that. But maybe something about myself. I actually still code a fair amount, and I find myself easily, depending on what consultant study you trust, when it comes to writing large software code bases or maintaining legacy software, maybe AI makes you 30 to 50% more productive. I haven't managed to find very rigorous studies yet, but depending on what consultant report you trust, I think that's quite plausible. So AI is making software engineers much more productive, and I hope to never again have to code without AI. While 30 to 50% more effective is really nice, when I think about building standalone software prototypes, kind of when AI fund, where an idea want to test out, I or one of my team members will often throw together a quick prototype just to see if the thing even makes sense, if it works. The productivity boost is not 30 to 50%. It feels like it's a 10x improvement. So I will routinely now on a weekend code up something in the afternoon, whatever, 3 or 4 or 5 hours that previously would have taken me easily like a month or two to code up. And so what I'm seeing is for a lot of standalone applications, it turns out for standalone prototypes, for standalone applications, because there's much less integration needed with legacy software and data, and if a standalone prototype, you don't even have huge reliability, scalability, or security requirements. Uh, that can be built really, really quickly. And I feel like for a lot of job roles, including software engineer, but also the marketers, the recruiters, and the financial analysts, and so on, if people know how to do this, they'll be able to be much more effective at their work. So, I don't know, for example, on my team at DeepLearn.ai, we have a journalist works on The Batch. There's a former reporter. Tim used to write for Wired magazine. And so he wrote code to scrape RSS feeds to flag to him when there are important news articles we need to pay attention to and consider writing, right? So it's oh, Y magazine reporter. He's now on our team at deeplearning.ai. And the fact he can write code makes him materially more effective at his work. Or some of the marketers in various teams I work with, they're writing code to gather user feedback, kind of very rich personalized surveys, deploy on Heroku, right? And by able to write code, they are much more effective marketers than the ones that don't know how to write code. So I think at this moment in time, I'm already seeing a very clear performance gap in many job roles between people that know how to code and those that don't. Is absolutely huge in software engineering, but it's already very noticeable even outside software engineering. And as AI becomes better, as the training becomes better, I fully expect this performance gap to continue to grow. Oh, and by the way, to those of you worried about, AI job displacement and so on, I want to share a piece of good news as well, which is that historically, as individuals become more productive, the pay of the individual tends to go up as well. This is why in software engineering, we have the concept of a 10x developer, which is a developer that, purportedly is 10x more effective than the average developer. Guess what? 10x developers actually get paid a lot more. I don't know if they get paid 10x more, but I think they easily get paid, 3x more or something, right? So it's great for the company that hires them. It's great for the individual. I mean, who doesn't want a 200% raise? And as AI starts to affect more of other industries, I feel like right now we don't talk about the 10x financial analysts or the 10x marketers or whatever, but as more people in these other sectors learn to use AI tools to code to do more tasks with automation, I think we'll start to see a lot more 10x marketers, 10x financial analysts, 10x HR professionals, and I think those individuals will end up doing much better for themselves as well. But the challenge will be how do we bring everyone with us and give everyone these tools? So a lot of my thinking at deeplearning.ai and the work that I still do teaching with Coursera is how do I empower everyone to build with AI?
All right, ethical and responsible AI. That's my next subject I want you to address. Do you think we are making progress or losing ground in building a safe AI system? What are the steps you would like to see put in place for you to have? What tools are being developed that increase your sense of confidence about our future?
So I feel like I tend to not even talk about AI safety, um, because I find that is safety is a function of the application more than is a function of the AI technology. And so AI, let's say foundation models, right? General purpose technology useful for tons of things. I have no idea how to make a foundation model safe because if you build an AI foundation model, someone could use it, for educational purposes. They could use it to help edit their writing. They could use it for political misinformation. So whether or not the technology is used responsibly is not a function of the technology. It is much more a function of how it is used or a function of the application. So I feel like we have important work to do in responsible AI, where if you are building a medical device, let's make sure the medical device is safe. So let's take a responsible approach to that. If you are building a new summarizer, let's make sure we use AI responsibly to make sure that the summaries are reasonably free from bias or whatever are the other risks of building a new summarizer. But the term AI safety, I think, falsely implies that AI technology can be made safe, which I don't think it can be, no more than any other general purpose technology like electricity or like electric motor cannot be made safe because the maker of electric motor does not control whether it's used in a dialysis machine or electric vehicle or used to build a smart bomb, right? So there's no way to build an electric motor to guarantee the electric motor won't be used for a nefarious purpose. But so safety and the responsible use of AI is much more a function of the application rather than of the technology. And I feel like instead of talk about AI safety, which tends to imply the technology is safe or not, I spend a lot of time thinking about the responsible use of AI because that emphasizes that it's up to us when we use this amazing technology to use it in a responsible way that helps rather than harms people. So just be clear, responsible AI is super important. And when we build different applications, we need best practices and tools and we work on that. but I find AI safety to be kind of a vague concept that is much more difficult to make progress on. And frankly, AI safety has been one of the things that's been weaponized against AI open source as well. Whereas we talk about the responsible use of AI, then that puts us in a better position to guard against possible harms while not, frankly, weaponizing it against open source.
Well put. Foundation models and trends. Where do you see the limitations of large language models today? Why do you favor data-centric AI as a complement to model-centric approaches? What do you see as the most underrated trend in AI right now? That's the bonus question.
Boy, there's so much going on in AI. It's hard to um, summarize. So, well, this is such a wonderful time to build. Maybe one thing I hope everyone at this meeting, after you go home or whatever, just go and build cool stuff, right? Do so in a responsible way, but just go and build stuff. One of the things I see is because the cost of prototyping has plummeted, when my team has, I feel like whereas working on legacy software with AI assistance, be it Cursor, Windsurf, or whatever, that's maybe a 30-50% productivity improvement. When it comes to building standalone prototypes, I feel like I'm literally 10 times faster than I used to be with AI assistance. And this changes the cost equation in terms of how we innovate and invent. So specifically, um, I often work with startups and large companies and research groups, and because the cost of prototyping has plummeted, the rational thing to do is to just prototype a lot more. So my teams, we will build tons of prototypes, many of which will never see the light of day. But the trick is, if the cost of prototyping is that, if you burn 2 hours building something to figure out, let's not do that, that's totally fine. So I see a lot of smart businesses rejiggering their corporate innovation process to say, you know what, let's build 20 prototypes. And then if only 2 survive and we discard 18 of them, that's totally fine. If trying 20 things is the price of discovering the 2 that really work well, that's really fine. And so I know that people have lamented that a lot of AI projects in proof of concept don't ever make it into production. I don't worry about that. I feel like my team is actually driving the trend toward even lower conversion from prototype to production. But the way to do that is not to lower is really to massively improve expand the number of prototypes we build very, very cheaply as an important mechanism for inventing new things that are worthy of taking to production. And maybe just to share one other thing. One of the lessons, I was fortunate to learn early in life was you're allowed to do stuff, right? Be responsible, don't harm other people. But in life, there are a lot of things that you're allowed to do so long as you don't harm others and you're responsible and legal and respect the law and so on, that you don't need permission for. So both within my team, as well as when I work with large corporations, um, I have a strong aversion to the concept of needing to ask for permission. So whenever someone in my team says, "Oh, before you do this, you should ask for permission," I just have a very strong instinct of why do they need to ask for permission? And it turns out that in a large corporation or in a university, if doing something needs approval from 5 vice presidents, or 3 deans or whatever, everything grinds to a halt. It's just impossible to go and get permission from so many different people. And in some businesses, there is a view, I think accurate, that you can't afford to have an engineer do something random and damage the company brand or her revenue or put out something that leaks PII, personal data. And so before you're allowed to do anything, you need privacy review, HR review, marketing review, legal review, whatever, and then everything grinds to a halt. So one thing I've learned in multiple teams is to create sandbox environments, usually with no private information, usually of products that we don't ship to the public under our brand, but to create sandbox environments where engineers can go in and just do whatever they want, because within those constraints, I am confident that there's no way they could harm the overall team or the overall business. And this allows, both in large companies and startups, this allows teams to just run really, really fast and try out lots of things without needing to stop to ask for permission, which makes things grind to a halt. Um, and I think the sandbox ensures that we are doing things responsibly. And so I find it a fascinating part of how we're rejiggering corporate innovations to take advantage of the fact that the cost of prototyping has really plummeted.
So I don't know if you can hear in the room, but this is our 40th panel of today. Some of the other panels, it was kind of rowdy in the room or rowdy outside. You can hear a pin drop here. Like people are really listening to you. I don't know if that's accent and people are lulled or it's the quality of what you're saying. I want to say you are a very special person at a very unique time. And we really enjoyed having you in Davos. You seem to have a lot of fun. And I think we're coming to Stanford on September 8th and 9th. I found out the Stanford Alumni Center, and we have a tour of HAI. We have a tour of NVIDIA all set up. So I hope you join us there. And January 21st in Davos, those are, we'd love to have you. But that's not a question. Here's a question. Future work, AI, and human motivation. What have you learned about human motivation from running massive online courses? What skills will remain irreplaceable in the next 5 to 10 years as AI tools become more powerful? What careers and areas of human work do you think will flourish in 2040, even as AI expands? How are we doing on global AI literacy?
I feel like I think workers in the future will be much more powerful than workers today, because of AI enablement. But there is real training needed in order to get people able to use AI the way they should. When the internet came up and it started to be web search, kind of everyone, right, had to learn to search on the web. So today, I can't imagine hiring a marketer or a financial analyst that doesn't know how to use web search. um, I think I've already passed the point where I just will not hire, a recruiter or whatever that doesn't know how to prompt large language models in a reasonably sophisticated way. Um, and I'm not yet at the point, but I feel like I'm rapidly approaching the point for a lot of job roles. I will not hire someone that doesn't know how to code, right? Even for a non-technical. I'm not yet there, but I think I'm getting closer there. So the good news, bad news is uh, I feel like as technology comes, people that use it will be more powerful, but we do have to learn the technology and embrace it. But as I mentioned just now, when someone's much more productive, they actually do much better for themselves, and salaries do go up. So um, right now in the United States, I think 4 states out of 50 requires some CS in order to get a high school diploma. I think it should be 50 out of 50 states, but we still have a lot of work to get there. And I think I'm absolutely not worried about people running out of work to do. I know people worry about AI job displacement, and my answer is, if you're worried about AI impacting your job, learn about it, take control of it, be one of the people that can bend AI to your will, and then you will be one of the people charting your own course and able to just accomplish much more.
So last question. You're optimistic about AI. It seems like today's AI field. It seems like the tech bros have sort of declared that they've won. I don't know. How do you reconcile with that? How does that fit into your worldview? And yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm just curious from where you sit. What do you see on that?
I don't know. I honestly did not realize that the tech bros have won. But
Yeah, no, just react to it. Yeah, what do you think of that?
um, I think that
Or
over
what
the last,
what role are the tech bros playing? It's clear Elon is very involved in this White House administration. But from where you sit, how do you what's your commentary on the role tech bros are playing, should play, and does that make you nervous?
I think that I'm definitely nervous about some of the things that the current U.S. administration is doing. I feel like, for example, higher education is one of the gems of the United States. It's also one of our biggest exports, by the way. If you want to trade and balance, we do a good job exporting higher education to other nations. So I feel like making sure we preserve academic freedom, preserve uh, the intellectual freedom of academia, preserve this gem of the United States seems really important. And I think funding challenges, both the tuition as well as research level, as well as access to international students, and the way that international student status is being just deleted in the system called SEVIS. I think that's really tragic. It feels like the way that the US is, but I was once a international student myself, on an F1 visa. And actually, I realized, going back on my paternal line, my grandfather was born in Jamaica, moved to Hong Kong. My father was born in Hong Kong, moved to London, then Singapore. I was born in London, moved to the United States. So I feel like my family, we're all immigrants, basically. And
I did not know
so
that Jamaica. Yeah, that's very interesting.
I actually have a little bit of Jamaican blood. Like my 23andMe test actually shows I'm actually a little bit Jamaican. I don't know they do it, but I feel like um uh I feel like making sure we treat immigrants well and welcome all of these wonderful hardworking people that want to come and live with us and hang out with us. That seems important, and preserving higher education, that seems important. So I worry about that. But having said that, I don't think the tech bros have won. I think AI is still wide open. And by the way, it's fine if a bunch of tech brothers and sisters or whatever make a lot of money, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But what is important is that we bring the benefits of AI broadly to a lot of people. And if along the way, hey, if a few individuals make tons of money, that's good. That's actually probably even a good thing, in that it incentivizes capitalism and entrepreneurship. But the most important thing is not whether a few individuals do well. The most important thing is, can we bring the benefits of AI to a ton of people? And I think so long as we preserve open source and give people options, I think we're on a
Yeah.
decent
All right. So I would ask you what you think people should invest in, but I'm going to save that for the next Imagination Action you're going to participate in. This is my way of tricking you into signing up early. And I now got to go because I'm going to go interview the co-founder of Perplexity. Is there any question you'd like me to ask him on your behalf?
I don't know. I do respect for the stuff he's built. I don't know. Yeah, ask him what cool things we can expect next. I feel like I
Okay.
definitely
All right. If this was an Uber drive out of 5 stars, you get 11. Nice job.
Thank you, guys.
Andrew Ng, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew Ng.